Dark greetings, you fucking disgusting creatures.
Whoa.
It turns out that Freddy's Dead has drained some of my life force, which is the exact reason I destroyed it in the first fucking place. So I may not be my usual warm and pleasant self, nor have I been for the last 2 miserable weeks. Nevertheless, this horror show of a horror show must continue. Now I'm going to turn my attention to my new guest, Dr. Preston Demento. Preston, I'm a very broken entity. I need something. Please.
I do have something, but to make sure you don't fade away any more than you are now, I need to know a few things.
You're not a cop, are you?
Do you like creepy cabins?
Yes.
Demons?
Yes.
Screaming?
Yes.
Gory graphic violence mixed with slapstick comedy?
You just described my Christmas plans.
Evil Dead 2. Alternatively, Evil Dead 2. Dead by Dawn!
Oh, finally! Some good fucking horror.
It's a nice little cave you got here.
Yeah, I haven't been able to dust it or put up any more extra cobwebs.
It's the same amount of cobwebs as the last time I saw.
Yeah, except rats are starting to use them now.
It's probably not good for the VHS tapes.
No, but the spiders have been keeping the VHS tapes safe.
It's the constant war between rats and spiders.
Yeah. Welcome everybody to the final episode of the Slaughterhouse Review. This week, we're talking about Evil Dead 2. And
Yay.
what a way to wrap things up. My first week, I had a weird, obscure indie. Then I had a mess. And now we're here with something that I was really looking forward to talking about. It's just a simple, classic, straightforward horror film.
You gotta save the best for last.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
I mean, it's Evil Dead 2. Like, if you want to sum up, it's Evil Dead 2.
It's pretty straightforward.
It's still just as stylish and wacky and fun. Like, I had a blast from start to finish. It's... Like, I don't even know where do I start, except for just jerking it off and saying it's so good, it's so good.
I would say where I want to start for the review is something that it doesn't drive me nuts because it's like a rights thing, right? But it drives me crazy because they had to change the story from the first one slightly. So it's like a sequel, but it's not really a sequel, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a bit more of a remake than anything.
I imagine it is more like Sam Raimi. I don't know if this is how it was, but it just felt like this is what Sam Raimi wanted to do proper, or like he did the horror one and then was like, all right, I want to add some fucking Three Stooges bits into this one.
Yeah, like it felt like they had more of a budget to really like breathe and do the things that they really wanted to do.
Yeah, because I think they did get a bigger budget. It was like a significantly bigger budget.
It was 10 times the size of the previous budget. The first one famously had the budget of $350,000 that they borrowed from dentists and family. And then this movie I looked up is $3.5 million, which adjusted to today, that's a $10 million budget today, which is still relatively low.
Yeah.
Especially for what this movie achieves with the visuals and the effects. I mean, they really made that money go a long way.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the, just to jump to the end, like that big, tree monster at the ass end.
One of my notes is just the final Deadite is awesome. That's all I have is just it looks badass.
Get rid of it! Conda! Conda!
It still looks incredible. And I think at that moment, that's when I picked up the phone and I searched up, like, how much money did this movie have by today's standards even, because my god, it looks incredible.
Yeah,
like it's such an expensive looking movie, and I think a lot of it is because like they're just clever.
Yeah,
they really, like, you can see all the little like tricks they did to kind of get around certain effects, and I think making that first movie on such a low budget, because I mean the whole point of the first movie, they were just happy to get a movie made.
Yeah.
Like that was their whole thing. And so with that experience of like the do-it-yourself kind of filmmaking, they can take the studio money and still do the indie stuff and save themselves like a lot of money, so they could use like bigger puppets and prosthetics and all that.
Well, because it's a smart way to make movies, because people are still gonna watch that shit no matter what. But if you like really like conserve the budget, I feel like you have a better chance of like keeping to like you keep getting to make more movies, because producers are like, well, this guy works pretty good on a tight budget, like we can get him to do some crazy shit for real cheap.
Yeah, and the movie sells.
Yeah, and it makes a ton of money, because even if it like not a lot of people see it, it was so low budget that like it still probably makes its money back.
Yeah, you don't need a big opening weekend to like get yourself in the green. All you need is like a modest opening and you're gonna be good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why Blumhouse, that's their whole bread and butter, is making movies for like under $5 million, and their opening weekend alone's like 60-70 million. So they just bank. But yeah, I do want to talk about how like I forgot just how cartoonish and comedic this movie is from start to finish. I mean, first off, you could tell it starts really quick. Like,
yeah,
when
it just gets right into it, like you're just there. It's like, here's the Book of the Dead, bitch. All right, now we're in.
Yeah, like Ash and Linda are driving to the cabin, and then it feels like I like left the room to go get a drink, came back, and they're in the cabin and he's reading the book. I'm like, oh, geez, we just snapped right into it. And I like that because it's like, because again, they didn't have the rights to the first movie, so you can't like use any footage, so you have to kind of like retell it. And Samurai's like, well, let's not pitter patter around, let's get right into the action.
It's like, that's not the good, like the good stuff isn't like the lead up. That's not, because he's already got enough of a lead up to when like the other characters show up. It's just, they're just like, all right, evil shit's already happening. Let's torture this character for like 30 minutes, and then he'll meet up with the other characters, and then we can do some minor slow burn stuff.
Yeah, it really did feel like Samurai just wanted to make a movie where he got to torture his best friend.
Seems every movie.
And only his friend for like... Yeah, this feels like the start. For like 90 minutes, he's just throwing stuff at him.
My favorite part of it at the beginning is how melodramatic it is sometimes. Like when...
Like a soap opera?
Yeah, like it's very like overacted, but in like such an endearing way.
I love when he tries to escape, and you see like the road is bent, and when Bruce Campbell, when he gets out, he is so like defeated. It's not even like he's like heartbroken by the fact. He's just like, are you serious? Come on, man.
Oh no! No!
Which is, that's such a real reaction to that kind of thing. It's like, come on. That just feels like Ash's character in a nutshell. Like, these Deadites just continuously inconvenience him at every step of the way.
Yeah, and he just gets pissed off with it, until then he becomes like the big hero that we all know.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing. It's like his arc. You can see the clear like evolution of him turning into the protagonist. And I thought that's really cool that they, you have a tight little arc in there, because the first movie was just about like, look at the crazy ideas that we had, and this one's like, hey, let's try and find a bit more of a story, a bit more A to B for the character, and just go ham with all the effects. I mean, we could really just spend the rest of the time just talking about the creative like scares, because I mean, there's like a scare every 2 minutes.
And if it's not a scare, it's like, because I wrote down, I was like, I wonder if this could be classified, at least at the beginning, as like a psychological horror movie, because of the way Ash just gets like mentally fucked with.
Yeah, like the mirror version of himself jumps through.
Yeah, or just like him seeing Linda dancing in the woods, and then he like, it flashes and he's just sitting in a chair, and you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, like that was interesting, like how they made the evil entity is more like it drives you so insane to the point where they can just jump in on you. it's almost like it has to break down your will, or it decides when it can just take over you, or when it decides, you know what, I'm gonna have fun with this one. I'm gonna give him a bit of a hell of a time before I inevitably take over him. Because he does get taken over real quick. In like the first 10 minutes, he like chops her head off and then he's possessed. And I thought, did I miss something? Because I know he comes Evil Ash later in the movie, but I forgot he got possessed early on. And I thought, damn, did I this movie's moving along real quick.
I love some slow burn stuff, but I feel like Evil Dead is not like a slow burn type movie. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it should just be constant, like, go.
Yeah, you know, keep us entertained. I mean, that's what Sam Raimi's all about. He's said very famously, he's like, look, I'm just an entertainer. I just want people to have a good time watching my movies. That's all I'm here for. Like, he's that kind of a goober.
Yeah, and I'm all for it, because I love these movies so goddamn much.
Yeah, what I love about it is, I love, like, the two favorite moments are, like, the scene where, like, he's shooting the wall, trying to get his hand, and then he just gets up, like, jet streamed with gallons of fake blood, just spraying him. And later when that guy gets, the redneck gets pulled underground by the witch, and it's like he went through a wood chipper, and he just fucking explodes with fake blood.
He had like 2 extra dudes of blood in his body.
Yeah, and it makes me think, like, what is the witch doing to him? I always imagine, because there's a lot of, like, Looney Tunes aspects to the whole movie. It made me think of, like, the Tasmanian devil, like, which is just, like, spinning around him and devouring all his flesh.
That's terrible. Just fucking...
There was a lot of little moments like that. Like, I know, like, the big thing is, like, Three Stooges was a big influence on The Evil Dead and, like, the comedy. But I remember when I actually noticed, like, a wrestling reference in this movie, a very clear, like, little, it's very quick, but, like, when Ash, like, fights the witch and he's in full, like, hey, let's go, you know, like, he's the man, like, the guy is here, and he, like, knocks her down and then gets up, and when she's, like, shaking her fists in her head, like, that's Hulk Hogan entering a state of Hulkamania. And I laughed so hard because I went, oh my god, they're doing wrestling bits. You can feel like this was made by people who just wanted to have a fun time. You can tell it still feels like it was made by a group of friends who wanted to make themselves laugh, even though it has this extraordinary, like, this bigger, like, studio budget.
Yeah, like it I feel like that's what a lot of these, like, Evil Dead movies kind of feel like. It's like it's like an Adam Sandler movie where it's just like, it feels like they just wanted to, like, have a goofy time with their friends, but they actually made a good movie instead of just like a garbage movie like Grown Ups. I am so upset that Bruce Campbell didn't become like a bigger Hollywood star, because he fucking, like, he could do some crazy shit if they let him be like a main leading man. If he's just doing front flips for fucking Evil Dead 2.
Which clearly tells, like, that was something he could just do.
Yeah, it was just, like, something
they knew he could do it growing up, so he's like, okay, you gotta flip yourself here. Like, all right, here I go.
All right, let's do it.
Like, he's really good at screaming. His screams are always really funny. I do like when he's possessed and he finds Linda's necklace, and it's like the power of love brings him back.
Oh.
Which I think is...
That's the power of love.
I think is kind of fun. Like, the scream he gives feels like there's a bit of genuine. I mean, it's melodramatic, but you can tell he likes doing it.
Well, I feel like that's like the whole vibe of Evil Dead. Less so like as the movies went on, but definitely for this one, like, it feels like the whole idea was like almost like every emotion is amplified for dramatic effects. So like when people are scared, they're like fucking terrified. They're screaming. When people are sad, they're over dramatically sad.
Yeah, and even like the camera does a good job at putting you in the space of the characters. Like it's so you'll see the same angles happen in a sense where it's like, you know, like when he's building the chainsaw hand, you'll see all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, it's badass, cool. Like depending on the situation, the camera work takes on a different feel depending on the emotional context.
I feel like the chainsaw building scene, like the workshed stuff, heavily inspired Edgar Wright. And I have no proof of this fact, but I just feel like he watched that part of Evil Dead and was like,
oh yeah, I mean,
I know what I'm doing with my life.
You
after
could
this.
there's hours of evidence of him talking about Evil Dead and Sam Raimi and how amazing it was. Like their show that he did Spaced with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. There's like dozens of Evil Dead references all throughout. Like straight
Nice.
up, like
I've never watched it, so
well, yeah. I mean, there's just like there's straight up like there's a nightmare scene that he has where he's like shooting demons, and the camera work is all the same. And he shoots one, and he actually says "groovy."
nice. That's
So
pretty
it's-
cool.
Yeah, this movie, without a shadow of doubt, it 100% had influence on Edgar Wright, and he'll even tell you about it.
I never even really noticed the camera work when I first watched Shaun of the Dead or even like Evil Dead. Like I wasn't really like aware of it. But when I watch it now, I'm like, wow, like there's some crazy shit where they just didn't have to do it, but it makes it flow so well. Like the biggest one that I have, it's one that I specifically wrote down because I saw it again today and I was like, fuck, dude. It's when he's like digging the grave, the transition of the shovel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, that's hot.
I also, yeah, all the scene transitions are so slick. Like I love when
So good.
the fake blood hits the light bulb and everything goes red.
Yes.
Which I think that's something that you've definitely taken inspiration from as an artist, because
Oh, yeah.
you and we make comics together, and there have been sequences where you've thought of like, oh, how can I mess with the coloring? I have an idea with this lighting stuff, and watch this again, it's like, oh, that's where we got it from.
When you watch like any Sam Raimi stuff, you realize how much stuff we've like just ganked right from him.
Yeah.
Because we're like, that's awesome. I want that.
The big transition I do want to mention in my mind is like when he goes to the basement to get the pages back. He opens the door and steps back, and the camera slowly pushes into the opening of the door. Is that Resident Evil?
Oh, probably.
Did Resident Evil? It made me think like, oh my god, that's the load screen from Resident Evil.
Well, I know for sure that like, I don't know how much of Resident Evil 1 was inspired by Evil Dead. I think it was, because I think when they were doing it, they were like watching a lot of horror stuff. And I think Evil Dead was one of the specifically like cited inspirations.
Yeah, the Evil Dead movies, I mean, they're huge in Japan.
Yeah.
Like overseas. Like, yeah, not even just Japan, just like outside of North America. Like, it's big in the UK, and it's big in, I know it's big in Japan, because I mean, Japan, they have such a big film market, but
Plus, Japan loves over-the-top shit, and that's just what Evil Dead 2 is.
same with people in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of their horror movies and a lot of their stuff, and like it is insane.
People in the UK love dry comedy and over-the-top shit.
Yeah, just look at Monty Python. I mean, this is essentially, if Monty Python made a horror movie, it would probably look like Evil Dead 2.
Yeah. That sounds about right. I'm surprised they never made a horror movie. That would have actually been pretty great.
I don't know. I mean, Terry Gilliam technically has made a couple fucking terrifying movies, but it's ironic because he's not even from the UK. He's from Minnesota.
Yeah, he's American.
Yeah, which blows the minds of a lot of people that I talk to. Even my dad, who's from Ireland, I told him like, hey, one of the big directors of the Monty Python movies, he's from Minnesota. And he goes, what? Yeah, no, it's not even an Englishman yet.
Shout out to all the people in Minnesota.
Yeah, thank you for giving us Terry Gilliam.
Yeah, and other things too.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot of stuff.
They had a big punk scene back in the 80s. Like, a lot of big punk bands came out of Minnesota.
I just imagine.
I know
Are you
that.
guys fucking punk? We're from Minnesota. We're fucking punk.
Oh yeah, do some cocaine. Listen to Swamp Penis. Play live at the show.
My favorite punk band, Swamp Penis. I'm glad you shouted them out.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get back to Evil Dead 2.
I want to mention one thing. My favorite bit in the whole movie, and it's almost like a Simpsons bit because it's just like it just shows. It's when he puts the books on the bucket to hold down his hand after he chops it off, and it's the fucking farewell to arms right on top. And I'm like, oh, you bastard! That's so fucking funny.
I love like those visual kind of gags. I mean, the whole movie feels that way. I can't think of any other examples like that, but there are all those like visual like puns.
I'm sure there's a lot more that I just don't remember off the top of my head, but that one specifically because it's so like in your face.
Yeah, and I mean that's a lot of the movie is like it's so unabashedly like this is what we are.
Yeah,
and I really like it. And seeing these movies, I mean, it's had a big impact on me as a writer and director, because it lets you know like what's possible with using so little.
That you don't really have to like, you don't have to be overly serious either. You don't have to make everything super dramatic and like it doesn't have to be an Oscar-winning level thing. It can just be fun and goofy because you want to make something fun and goofy.
Yeah, you just need passion. It just needs to be something that you're like, I need to do this. This would be so much fun, and you just commit to it. It's gonna be great. And it also shows like you can convince your friends to do fucking anything.
It's true.
Which I've done. I mean, I remember making movies with you guys young, and I've convinced you to do a lot of things. I haven't been able to get you to do everything. I tried to
if you know what I mean.
I mean, there's a reason why people always talk about Evil Dead or reference Evil Dead 2. Is what it's more like. It's specifically like Evil Dead 2. No, first Evil Dead, I think it's more impressive that the movie exists. Like, I'm surprised there isn't a movie about how that movie got made, because, I mean, it's so perfect. There's so much you could do and show. The movie itself, though, is... it's kind of forgettable. It has some neat moments. It has... I mean... I'm just gonna gloss over it, but my least favorite part of that movie is my least favorite part of this movie, which is the trees.
Yeah.
But in this movie, at least like they kind of held it back. It's only implied.
They didn't go as full into
No,
it.
I mean the way it's shot.
But at the same time, it's like, Raimi, what are you doing, man? Did you really need the tree scene again?
Yeah, but when the trees come back though in like the last act. They're incredible. Like the roots coming up and how massive and monstrous they are. And then also in like the TV show, the trees come back and they have like one eye and they're just throwing people around like they're just assholes. So I think it's so funny, like every iteration you've seen of these trees, it becomes more and more like acceptable and tasteful, because Raimi has even talked about the infamous tree scene from the first movie and says like it was bad judgment and it shouldn't have happened because he just wants to entertain people. He doesn't ever want to offend anybody. And it wasn't even his idea for that scene. It was one of the producers.
That seems about right.
That scene in.
Are you telling me a movie producer was being a creep? Nah.
I know, and I did look at a picture. His name is I think Rob Tabbert. And I looked at a picture of him and like, yeah, that guy looks the type who would
want the tree scenes in Evil Dead.
Yeah, and it was like, and even the exact wording was like, I wanted to hurt the audience.
Oh,
it's like, come on, man.
What the hell's wrong with you?
Come on. And part of me wanted to maybe not bring up the tree scene, because I know it's a subject that can kind of like drag the fun down, but I think it's important to bring up because I think it should be stated like there are more creative ways to entertain an audience and to scare people. I feel like you're reducing to the easiest possible way to make someone uncomfortable, and it's like you don't need to do that. There are better ways.
I could think of like 3 different ways right now to make that scene different.
Yeah.
I do want to mention, because I have the trivia thing pulled up. This movie was produced thanks to Stephen King.
Oh yeah.
He was the guy who convinced the producer for the movie over dinner, because he was doing the Maximum Overdrive movie, to like produce Evil Dead 2. Well, to finance it specifically, because Stephen King was a big fan of the first one.
Yeah, I mean that's the big like quote on their posters. Like he called it the most ferociously original movie he had ever seen. And it's so funny you say like he was talking to a guy about Maximum Overdrive, because that tells me like, well, you know, thank you Stephen King, and thank you Stephen King's cocaine.
Yeah.
For probably feel like, yeah, you gotta fund Evil Dead 2. You gotta fund it. It's such a good movie. You gotta do that. You know that's probably how the conversation went.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be so great. Oh, dude, the first one was fantastic. I can't wait to see the second one.
Fantastic. When they stabbed that chick in the Achilles tendon, like,
he's like, I loved it so much. I did that shit in Pet Sematary. It was great.
I don't even remember it.
But yeah, this movie, so good. Such a fantastic like Halloween watch.
Yeah, and like it's extremely well made. It's simple. It's fun.
It's not too scary.
It doesn't go on too long. It shows up. It gives you a thrill. Gives you a lot of laughs. Gives you some scares. Then the movie's over, and you can just go about your night.
Yes,
it was really nice. It was nice watching like a true to form horror classic. Like this is a bona fide classic.
Instead of watching like Freddy's Dead.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for bringing this to me. I feel a bit more revived.
Yeah, I'm glad I could embed you with some more essence.
And it is with this revived essence that I turn to you, my audience, and bid you a farewell as we bring this series to a close. And remember, even though the holiday of Halloween has come and gone, that does not mean we must stop being macabre. Always embrace the weird, unique side of yourself. Do not be afraid to show your inner freak, and tackle every day with the same ferocity as the demons and spirits that you spend all month loving and admiring. Thank you all again, and remember, please stay weird, please stay ghoulish.